Why is everyone not a founder? Founder में special क्या है?
So Ola कैसे हुआ था? Tell me the story of
When he left Microsoft and he wanted to start Ola, running my own startup called Chaupaati. Actually, I wanted to hire him in my own company, but he said that when he was competing head-on with Uber, unimaginable. And that a 24-year-old guy would do this. Turnover is like in tens of thousands of crores.
why were you skeptical about joining the founding cohort?
I really wanted to get behind this, but somehow, other things took over and this one took a back seat. We primarily chose APR because it's right next to Flipkart.
Tell me about the current education space.
Now, the revenue potential, I think, was misjudged. Their schooling is more focused on nutrition rather than learning.
There is a possibility to create a $1 billion company in education space.
Unfortunate for Indian students that the EdTech story didn't pan out the way it should have panned out. 20 million students paying $1,000, which is a lot of money. If I know about it and you don't know about it, you come back 10 years later and say, "Arey, ye sab changes to 10 saal pehle hi ho gaye." You have to be a keen observer of trends. It has to overlap with your passion for changing things with technology.
IIT Bombay नहीं होता, तो do you think Toppr और ये सब नहीं होता?
My co-founder at Toppr, दोनों IIT Bombay के थे, एक को campus से hire किया था, एक को off campus hire किया. Can you imagine in this modern era, one guy sticking to one job, one boss? The learning app is a high gross margin. For 15 years, I was on a very sort of lean salary. We were very young when we got into Future Group. कुछ foundation नहीं है. 5-6 years later, Flipkart was doing 10,000 crores and...
How did BYJU's acquisition happen?
So actually, BYJU को offer आने के बाद भी एक investor का offer था.
You built Toppr in Bombay, but you chose to, live in Bangalore. Why was that?
No, I moved to Bangalore very recently. So I built Toppr out of Bombay for 8-9 years.
Right.
I moved to Bangalore after Toppr got acquired, and I was at the stage of life where I said I needed a little bit of break time, and I said, which is a good city for me to move to. And I had a 2-year-old kid at that time, where we could afford a larger space and just more friends and have better weather. So that was how Bangalore happened.
And why APL? Because I see everyone lives, PhonePe founders also live here, right?
Correct. So a lot of people live in APR in the tech community and the from the investing community. We primarily chose APR because it's right next to Flipkart campus. And my wife works at Flipkart, so it's zero commute for her.
Who are other entrepreneurs from your batch?
Bhavish Agarwal, he's my junior. Nitin Saluja from Chayos, he's also my 2-year junior.
You've done with Raghav, sir, from Chayos.
Raghav is Nitin's junior from IIT Delhi, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say Sachin Bansal, Binni Bansal are my batch from IIT Delhi. I went to IIT Bombay, but they are same batch as me. That's roughly the cohort, that age group.
So Ola कैसे हुआ था? Tell me the story of...
Ola कैसे हुआ था? So Bhavish was my junior at IIT and he was also in my hostel. And he was an incredibly smart kid. And when he graduated, he went and joined Microsoft. At that time, I was running my own startup called Chaupaati. And when he left Microsoft and he wanted to start Ola, I think there were very few founders he could reach out to, or founders/seniors he could reach out to. And he obviously reached out to me because 1, I was a founder, 2, I was a senior, 3, I was his friend from hostel. So obviously, he reached out, we started hanging out. Actually, I wanted to hire him in my own company, but he said that, no, I don't want to join your company. I want to do my own thing. I want to start up. I said, okay, what do you want to start? So that's how we started chatting. And then he was incredibly smart, incredibly driven. Yeah. So initially we used to jam a bit about, what do you want to build, etc. Later on, so he just likes rocket fuel. And
if you were to interview Bhavish sir, what is something that you would definitely ask him?
For the benefit of others, I would want him to recount his journey of starting Ola Cabs, his thought process of starting Ola Cabs, his tactics and strategy over a 2-3 year period when he was competing head-on with Uber And it was a very aggressive competition. When Travis was the head of Uber, some of his missteps in expanding into too many verticals and then coming back, not just geographies, but also like too many verticals on food and etc. But like thinking back, how did he think about that in retrospect? His jump from Ola cabs to Ola Electric.
And then Kutrim, huh?
Yeah. So, and nothing wrong in that. Just want to understand the thought process, get deeper into his mind, how he thinks.
Is there something that you know about Bhavesh that the world doesn't know about?
I think the world knows, but I definitely know that Bhavesh, one word to define him would be ambition, right? He's super ambitious. Nothing that he thinks is small or mediocre or average. Everything that he thinks is outrageous. Mostly impossible in first go. And then eventually you come to terms with it that, okay, this can be done. Like back in 2010, cabs was such a fragmented market. Like it was all Tata Indicas run by drivers who would not listen to you and face structures that were not standard. Thinking that somebody would aggregate this complex fragmented market on an online app and make cabs available real time was unimaginable. And that a 24-year-old guy would do this, absolutely unimaginable, right? Like nobody would bet your money that koi 24 saal ka ladka will come and fix the fragmented cab market of India. But he did it. And that too while competing with a superbly funded global giant, at peak $60 billion company. So that he was very ambitious. And then again, like just thinking that somebody would set up a scooter plant, like an electric scooter plant, and roll out scooters within like 18 months. You would go buy a company, get the design, get the R&D team, get the land, build the factory and do all of it. And you're still like, 30 something. It's just unimaginable. I mean, the amount of work required to get that done tells you that, there are families that have been running Hero Honda, Bajaj, TVS, and that like ingrained with knowledge and capital and access, everything, right? Like, so you were born in that family and yet you saw some person who's completely new to the space come, take this opportunity, build it, and still has like leading market share today. It's just unimaginable for me. Like somebody was born in a scooter family. Yeah? Your grandfather was building scooters when you were born. And turnover is like in tens of thousands of crores.
But still you were not able to exploit an opportunity like that.
And explore an opportunity like that.
How much you ended up investing in Ola? You gave angel check, right?
Yeah, I wrote a very small check which amounted to 1% of Ola at that time.
How much was that amount? Approximately?
2 lakh rupees.
And you have exited completely or it's still there?
No, I exited.
And how much was the return?
1000x.
Wow, crazy.
1000x.
Tell me about the current education space. 2024. Are you still involved with Toppr?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you see the space spamming up? Do you think आज की date में there is a possibility to create a $1 billion company in education space, in EdTech?
100%. So I think it's unfortunate for Indian students that the EdTech story didn't pan out the way it should have panned out. Overall, there was a gap in our overall education infrastructure. Our schools were there, but not great enough. There was some coaching, but not good enough or inexpensive enough. So there was always this gap. As far as students were concerned, there was this gap that could be filled. And it could be filled with a solution that was better than your school and a solution that was not necessarily cheaper than your school, but, a definite good complement to your school. So that opportunity was there. And I think it was also needed because the human capital that lives in India, like 350 million school-age children live in India. That human capital needed to be uplifted, an opportunity that does not create revenue. You have to create revenue for it to sustain. Otherwise, you can't do it, right? Otherwise, it becomes an NGO or a government thing and it usually doesn't end up working. Now, the revenue potential, I think, was misjudged here.
How?
I feel that the revenue potential here was about $200 million to $500 million tops.
How are you coming to this number?
See, out of the 300 million students, about 150 million students are...
Lower bot strata, they can't afford to pay.
Yeah. If they go to a government school and just eat a midday meal and come back, that's great. Their schooling is more focused on nutrition rather than learning, right? Like, so out of the 150 million that remains, about 50 million are in like reasonable schools, some ambition, some drive, some upward mobility, etc. The others are like business as usual. If you just go through the motions of the school and come out,
हो जाते हैं, हाँ.
50 million का market था. 50 में से the paying market will be about like 2 million students across, let's say, 3 companies. So like the top company would get 1 million students. The other
2 or 3.
second and third company will get the remaining million students. But like it will be like 2 to 3 players, and the top company would get to 1 million students. And at 1 million students, the annual fee that you can charge is anywhere between 15,000 rupees to 30,000
30,000
for the online subscription, right? Because 80,000 to coaching class ki fee hai, so it has to be
lesser than
1/5 of that, right? So the fee would have been $200 to $400. Like 1 million students paying 200 to 400. So your revenue opportunity, you should have said, "Ki band is, I can create a company that does about $200 million. Worst case, best case is about $400 million. In a bull market, you will say, I'm 10x of my revenue and therefore I'm like a $2 billion company or I'm like a $4 billion company. In a mad bull run, crazy bull run, maybe I'm a $6 billion company. But the answer is anywhere between
1 billion.
2 billion to 6 billion, right?
Right.
That was the opportunity. I think that story got me told that people overestimated what the market here was. And people said, we want to build a $50 billion education company. We want to build a $100 billion. See, the thing is, when you want to build a $100 billion company, first of all, you're not going to get 10x multiples on your revenue. When you're tending to $100 billion in valuation, your revenue multiples tend to
Decrease,
right? Like 3, 4, at best 5x. So for a $100 billion company, you have to build a $20 billion revenue. For a $20 billion revenue, even at $1,000 of fee per year, which is 80,000 rupees per year, you need 20 million students to pay.
कहाँ से लेके आओगे?
So we don't have that deeper market, right? Like 20 million students paying $1,000, which is a lot of money, 80,000 rupees is not possible. So $100 billion ka dream is just like bonkers. When you misjudge the opportunity, you also misallocate the resources. आप उस proportion में पैसा लगा देते हो कि 100 बिलियन का कंपनी बनना है तो यार ये लो 5 बिलियन तो रेज कर ही लो, तो 500 million 3 बार दे दिया. So that's like bonkers. But if you said that, boss, the maximum revenue opportunity here is $200 million, and any frugal founder/investor combination will say, for me to build a $200 million revenue, my total capital raise in my lifetime should be $200 million. My first round can be 5, my second round can be 15, my third round can be 50, my fourth round can be 100, and then I will raise another 100. But overall, सारे round मिलाकर 200 to $50 million raise करो and $200 to $50 million का revenue बनाओ. That should have been the approach. But I think we somehow miscalculated and misjudged what is possible, and therefore capital allocation got out of control. If companies raise like $1 billion or $2 billion, it skews the market. Other people can't raise money, or other people also have to raise that kind of money. And then there are 2 companies that are raising $2 billion. There's no way something good is going to come out of it.
Whose mistake is this? Who miscalculated? How can smart people do this?
Smart people mess up the world all the time.
So let's say if somebody is passionate about this space, right? How do they find $1 billion gap in education space? What are some gaps? Because you mentioned it's possible to create $1 billion company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So many gaps, multiple gaps. Education में तो pick any age group, you have a gap.
But is the opportunity that big?
Let's say you want to, for early grades, you want to build a reading app. Now that's an opportunity, according to me. How much are parents willing to pay for kids reading? Maybe 5,000 rupees per year, 10,000 rupees per year. So that's like $100 per year. Now, how many such
Kids are there.
kids are willing to pay? 1 million to, don't tell me 20 million. Obviously not, right? But if you're saying that there are 1 to 2 million kids willing to pay $100 to $200, then your opportunity automatically becomes $100 million revenue opportunity, $100 to $400 million revenue opportunity in the reading space, in early 7-8 years space. Similarly, in the later grade space, same, right? Like, say if you have 1 million students who can pay for coaching and they want to pay about 200 each, then you have a $200 million opportunity. But then the capital you use to build that $200 million revenue should not exceed $200 million. Basically, you should use a thumb rule where your revenue run rate and the capital infused lifetime should be 1:1. If you raise $25 million, get to a $25 million revenue run rate. If you raise $50 million,
Get to that.
get to a $50 million revenue run rate. It's possible. Like a Series C company who's raised $50 million lifetime is at a $50 million revenue.
और जो आपने एक बात बोली थी, मैं आपके टॉक्स में देख रहा था, जिसमें कि if something is hit right now, you're late by 5 years. You have to predict something which will hit 5 years down the lane.
I've already told this. Yeah, sure.
Tell me, according to you, what do you think, what will be a hit 5 years down the lane in the education space? You can tell me about another space also, but I'm assuming that you know the education space best.
I can only own it value-wise if I know about it and you don't know about it. And that can only happen if it's going to be in the future. So I have to take a bet that, the ball will land there, or, these trends will converge there, or these actions today will result in some outcome there. So I have to take that call. Like in Toppr's case in 2013, we took a call saying, overall broadly, education could be changed through technology was a given. And that was true 10 years before Toppr started, and that is true 10 years after Toppr started also. But why 13 was important? 13 was important because for the first time, computers became accessible. But computers, I mean smartphones. Right? A computing device, which was an Android phone, became 6,000 rupees, which meant anybody can buy a computing device and keep it in their pocket. 5 years ago, if I went and saw the phone would be 30,000 rupees, and it's not even a computing device. So it's not a computer and it is 30,000 rupees. So what do you can't really leverage internet. 10 years later, if I come, maybe the computing device is 10 times more powerful and it is again 6,000 rupees only. So many others have already leveraged. It's too late, right? So it has to be right at the cusp. So that was happening. The second thing that was happening was all the exams were becoming objective type. So like in my time,
10 questions होते थे.
10 question होते थे.
JEE में, हाँ.
JEE में. Your time,
MCQ
ही होते थे. Then the third thing that was happening was all these exams were going online. So people started to take CVTs or like computer-based tests. So all these things were changing. And you're at the cusp of it. You come back 10 years later and say, "Arey, ये सब changes तो 10 साल पहले ही हो गए." So already you're too late. You can't create something. If you came 10 years earlier, you would say, "अरे अभी तो CBT computer-based testing आई नहीं है, objective type तो है नहीं, कैसे करोगे machines?" So you just have to time it right and figure out कि ये सारे trends कब कहाँ converge होंगे, 3-4 साल में क्या बनेगा, and then you build according to that.
I completely agree with this thought. Now, either tell me what will happen 5 years down the line, or help me understand the process how to time the market. And let's do it by an activity. What do you think? What are current trends? And let's try to double deep on what do you think, how these trends will result 5 years down the line, and what opportunities does it produce?
If I were able to predict what will come out 5 years later, then I would be building one new company every year because, so it's not that easy. That's why you have to be a keen observer of market. Like, why is everyone not a founder? Founder में special क्या है? Why am I the founder Why can't another person be the same EdTech founder? क्योंकि like मेरे IIT की क्लास में 400 लोग हैं, मेरे ITC के बैच में whatever 100 लोग हैं, or like there are hundreds of people who've had the same experience as me. I think you have to be a keen observer of trends and overlap that with your
thesis, a contrarian
passion
approach.
and skill. आपको काम भी आना चाहिए, आपको काम करने में मजा भी आना चाहिए, और आपको दिखना भी चाहिए कि क्या करना है. So I think you have to be a keen observer of where the market is going. Then you should have the skill. Oh, like, see, the market is going there. Brilliant, I can see it. But I don't have the skill to guide a company to that point. I can't do it. I have the skill to guide the company to that point, but I don't have the passion to do it. I don't want to build maybe I'm just not inspired to build a ride-hailing company, for example. Then I'm not going to build it, right? Like, maybe I'm a good coder. I can see that, okay, cabs will be booked online. I'm a great coder and a product manager. I can build an app for that, but I'm not passionate enough about it. Maybe I'm passionate about, changing something in radiology. So it has to overlap with your passion for changing things with technology, your skill in technology, and your vision for technology. So it has to coincide, and then you can be a founder. So, it can't be like, oh, I want to be a founder and therefore I will just modify my. It has to.
Got it.
It has to mean a few things. It will happen if it is supposed to happen.
Makes sense. एक चीज और आपने बोली थी जो रिसर्च में आई थी, and I want to double click on that, कि success is a function of 4 things, which is your smartness, hard work, your network, and being lucky.
Did I say that?
Yes.
Good answer.
So, इसमें hard work you can't increase, right? I mean, hard work you can increase. It's completely on you, right? You can optimize on your hard work. How can you optimize your smartness?
You can't.
You're born with a limited, you believe that you're born with a limited intelligence, IQ, and it can't be increased?
I don't know deeply how IQ works and how intelligence works, but I think in your formative years, that builds. I don't know if you're born with certain IQ on day 0 or it builds over 4, 5, 10-year period, but by whatever your formative years are over, you're either smart or you're not so smart. So I think it's more or less done in your formative years. You can call it IQ or whatever.
Is there something that you're doing for your child to make him more smarter in the formative years? Because do you think about this? Because you come from an education, and education is...
I don't think people are trying to do that or measuring it in a quantifiable way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about making my kids smarter. I just want to provide experiences that I feel are meaningful for him, that I feel that he enjoys. But I like कोई rigorous वो तो नहीं करा रहा हूँ कि ये करोगे तो थोड़ा smart हो जाओगे.
How do you see? Why do you see that some people are hardworking and some are not? What's the differentiation factor? Because you've seen so many folks.
So again, hard work is a function of your drive, and your drive is a function of your lived experiences, right? Like, so your experiences in life are different from mine. You come from a different city. I come from a different city. You grew up in a different. So how driven we are completely different. Now, like, see this, and you can apply this in multiple scenarios, right? You see some people who are brilliant at, going to the gym, working out, and they have great body. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of discipline. But the same guy may not be as disciplined when it comes to writing code, and vice versa. The guy who's writing brilliant code, puts in all the hours, has discipline, will just not take care of his health. And for the life of him, cannot go to the gym 3 times a week and get healthy or get those muscles. So different people are driven in different areas.
So that's why you have to focus on finding an area जिसमें आप driven हो so that you can optimize on hard work.
Yeah, so like overall success के लिए, whether it is success in building a company or success in winning a bodybuilding competition, you will need
enough drive
and hard work. That's also a lot of hard work. This is also a lot of hard work. Different kinds of hard work and discipline. in building a company, I think you need to be smart, because it's just pure hard work won't help it, because somebody who's smarter than you and is hardworking will beat you. But these two are also not sufficient, because if you bring the smartest guy and the most hardworking guy and put him in silo, it's not sufficient, right? Like things need to happen to
The timing
him
match.
or her, right? Like other people need to come, help. Serendipity needs to happen. Some people need to join. Some people need to go away. Some people need to give you money. Some customers need to. So it's a network, right? Like, and that those networks are built over years. Who introduces you to who is not science. I can't say, okay, now this guy will introduce me to that person. Some guy who went to college with me is now friends with some person and introduces me, and that results in some meaningful conversation of an investment. Some guy introduces me to a head of a school, and that results in a meaningful conversation of a sales contract. Network. And despite all this, it still comes down to luck.
Tell me 3 or 4 times when you felt you were, lucky. Most luckiest moment in times of your Chaupaati days. And
Most luckiest moment of my life is in 10th standard, I did not know about IITs.
okay.
Okay. I had no idea that there are these engineering colleges. So by chance, like I saw one of my classmates carrying some books that were not part of curriculum, and I asked him, what are these books? And he was trying to hide them for a bit. I said, but why are you carrying exams? Last exam tha. So there was no further exam, and he was carrying these books. I said, exams khatam ho gaye, why are you carrying these books? What are these books? Then he finally admitted that these books are to go to a coaching class called Ramaya classes. I said, what are Ramaya classes? He said, Ramaya classes coach you for engineering colleges called IITs. I said, what are IITs? He said, engineering colleges hai Delhi, Bombay, Madras and Calcutta mein. His knowledge was also limited, but he said there are 4 engineering colleges in these 4 cities. I said, engineering colleges to Hyderabad mein bhi bahut sare hai. Why do you have to? No, so he said, this engineering college mein jaoge to 50,000 rupees ki salary, or 30,000 rupees ki salary milegi.
Which year is this?
This is like 97.
Okay.
That number was like a big, I said 1,000 rupees per day. It's like 30,000 rupees in a month. I mean, like I'd never seen that kind of money in my family. So I said, I need to find out about this. So my lucky moment was discovering that there are these
exams.
Yeah, there are these colleges called IITs, for which there is an entrance called IIT JEE, for which there is a coaching class called Ramaya. And this kid is preparing for getting into that coaching class.
From those books.
With those books. That was my lucky moment. If I did not discover, I would have I was topping my school. There's no big deal. So I would have gone to some top engineering college in Hyderabad, Usmania University or something, and I would have gone on a different track, and my network would have been different, and my opportunities would have been different.
IIT Bombay नहीं होता, तो do you think Toppr और ये सब नहीं होता?
IIT Bombay नहीं होता, तो my network would have been completely different. I would have been living in Hyderabad. Maybe I would have gone to Middle East to work in a Middle East job, or I would have gone to the US after my engineering.
Toppr की जर्नी में ऐसा क्या कौन-कौन से टाइम थे जहाँ पर आपके नेटवर्क ने आपको 1 सेकंड में हेल्प करी थी और you were felt very lucky? यार ये चीज नहीं होती तो we wouldn't be able to build this.
Many things, right? Like the world is so interconnected, it's impossible. So my co-founder at Toppr was the first guy to join my previous startup. So he joined Chaupaati as engineer number 1. We worked on Chaupaati for 5 years. When we exited Chaupaati, we started Toppr together. And we built Toppr for whatever, 10, 11 years together. So Chaupaati got acquired by Future Bazaar. We went to campus and hired these 2 brilliant guys from campus. Actually, one from campus, one off campus.
Who were these folks?
Praddy and Joe. दोनों IIT बॉम्बे के थे. एक को कैंपस से हायर किया था, एक को ऑफ कैंपस हायर किया. और 1 साल बाद we told them that we are leaving Future Group. We want to do our own startup. They said, we'll also come with. And we told them, if you want, you can come. Join us. It will be a very shaky ride. They were only 1 year out of college. Absolutely
novice, young.
Novice, right? So 1 year out of college. But both of them said, if you guys are leaving, we'll also leave. And if you, we'll come with you and we'll build. I hired Joe in 2011 in Future Group. In 12, we quit Future Group, and Joe also quit Future. So 12 से वो मेरे साथ काम कर रहा है, 24, 2020.
हाँ.
So for 11 से 24, 13 years he's worked with me. Can you imagine in this modern era, one guy sticking to one job, one boss, one company for 13 years? Prabdeep Bedi, who's my classmate was a 1 year junior from IIT, was a friend when in our IIT years. He went and worked at P&G, then he went to do his MBA from the US. Then he went to McKinsey in Chicago and he worked at McKinsey for 5 years. He was a fast riser at McKinsey. He got to AP at McKinsey. And then he said, I want to come back to India. And then he called me saying, Z, I want to come back to India. What are my options? I said, here are your 30 options. Go talk to all of them. He interviewed multiple firms, did like last rounds at 10 firms, got 4 or 5 offers. And then he said, okay, I'll come join Toppr, which was insane amount of luck for me. Can you imagine a guy who was IIT topper, whose day one job is PNG from campus. He goes to USB school. His B school job is McKinsey, which is a day one job. And he's like the fast riser at McKinsey in the Chicago office, in one of their primary offices. 5 years there. That guy comes to India. Any firm will say, yeah, Raja, join us. He's coming to join Toppr. That's insane luck.
Do you also think acquisition of Toppr at that valuation and at that time was a lucky moment? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So it was a local maxima. It was good. If you look at that particular time period, that 6-month time period, it was a good thing to happen to Toppr because we were running out of money primarily because one company was overfunded and investors were unwilling to
bet on the competitor
against that competitor. So now with few or no options, your best bet is to find a home. So in that, if you look at that, it was a maxima there, right? It was a local maxima. So yeah, us situation it was a great outcome. Indeed, it was a great outcome. Most of our investors got their money, multiples. We got decent money. BYJU got decent tech and product and sales team, and so great outcome for both. But if you step back and look at a 10-year horizon and say EdTech ka kya hua, then I think it wasn't a great outcome
for the entire market or only for Toppr?
For Toppr as well as for, like, if we didn't have to get acquired and we were still continuing down that path by 2022, like the tech market was imploding. Good quality companies would have survived, and Toppr was a good quality company, and it could have been a different outcome completely.
So उस समय आपके पास क्या option थे? मतलब if you were to go back, what were your learnings? What were your options apart from and how did BYJU's acquisition happen? मतलब you reached out, they reached out. You walk me through that process and what were some learnings from that time?
See, the options were limited because it became increasingly clear that it was not possible to raise a $50 to $100 million check against a competitor that already had $1 billion on balance sheet.
But there can be a second opportunity. There are markets where duopoly can exist, right? Swiggy ka Zomato, Ola ka Uber, Flipkart ka Amazon. So there can be a second player, right?
Except Swiggy ka Zomato, Ola ka Uber is a MNC. Flipkart ka Amazon is also an MNC. So the only Indian duopoly is Swiggy Zomato.
Right.
Ideally, Toppr shouldn't have survived for so long. Should have folded much earlier.
कैसे बचे थे?
थोड़ा luck, थोड़ा rigor का combination था. Also, this industry was a high gross margin space, right? The learning app is a high gross margin, pure software hai. So your burns don't tend to be astronomical. So you can run a lean burn company for long. Unlike negative gross margin businesses where you need a lot of capital to fund the growth. So that way we were lucky. Nature of business, nature of industry, and our own approach to running the business, sab milakar, it turned out fine.
Also, when you say luck and network, for people who are not in IITs, right? For people जिनका college इतना strong.
IIT एक example है network का. Bollywood एक network है.
हाँ.
ठीक है. Journalism भी एक network है. So irrespective of what industry you're in, there is a network.
How do you break in a network? Let's say Bollywood. How would you break? If you know कि यार आपको, if you have to build something around those lines, how do you break in?
Break in, na, like
Did you ever break in to any network apart from IIT Bombay?
startup is a network. No, not all startup founders are from IIT. Not all investors are from IIT.
And can you maximize your luck?
The only way to maximize your luck is to be present.
Present in the right place at the right time? Or present in terms of observing?
No, not present in terms of observe, like be there. Like at some point, luck will hit you. If you fold before luck hits you, then it's your loss. If you just stay out there, तो कभी ना कभी तो
You'll get lucky.
You'll get lucky. Like if Toppr was around in 2022, we would have been insanely lucky.
क्या होता अगर 2022 में टॉपर होता तो?
Toppr, like competition पूरा dissolve होने लग गया था, massive funding हो रही थी हर किसी की, 100 मिलियन 200 मिलियन फंडिंग हो रही थी और क्या आपका competition under stress है, suddenly you would have been rewarded for all the good work that you did for
So many years.
Yeah, 9 years. Then जो आपने पूरा काम किया उसका आप benefit reap कर लेते. So in some sense you would have been lucky. आपका ना होना in 2022 is in some sense unlucky. आप 2021 में acquire हो गए is unlucky for you.
Was acquisition under pressure? अगर आप acquired नहीं होते तो क्या होता? अगर in order to come till 2022, what could you have done? क्योंकि आप बोल रहे हो कि अगर हम
और capital raise करना पड़ता.
तो capital क्यों raise नहीं हो पा रहा था? कैसे करते और capital raise? Do you think now कि कुछ ऐसा कर लेते तो क्या हो जाता capital? क्या था?
Hindsight में बहुत easy है. था ऑफर था. So actually बायजू का ऑफर आने के बाद भी एक इन्वेस्टर का ऑफर था.
अच्छा. कंपनी और
नहीं
इन्वेस्टर हाँ.
इन्वेस्टर ऑफर था. But it wasn't a full big check, right? It wasn't like a $60 million check that would have taken the company through. And I was by that time so tired of fighting this thing कि then I said कि यार मैं इनसे पैसा लूँगा. वापस ये 6 महीने साल भर का पैसा है तो 6 महीने के बाद मेरे को वापस फंड रेज में लगना पड़ेगा क्योंकि 1 साल में तो फिर पैसा खत्म होगा या जो भी 15 महीने में खत्म होगा तो वापस 6 से 9 महीने में फिर से मैं सेम स्पॉट में रहूँगा या तो पूरा 2 साल का पैसा लो ताकि then you don't have to come back to capital raise and get to a point where you don't have to raise it ever. या तो पूरा चेक लो या फिर चेक especially when you have one acquisition offer it didn't make sense for me to do a half check.
Right.
Either do a full check or take the acquisition offer. If I said no to the acquisition offer and I took the half check, by 2021 things changed so dramatically that we would have gotten a lot more money. And by 2022,
we
would have not only gotten a lot more money, but our competition would have been dissolving and
etc.
So it would have been like a super lucky move. The 21 funding boom and the 22 stress for competition would have been super lucky moments for us if we were around, if we were just there. And for us to be there, we needed to take that half check.
After you got acquired, you had a good amount of capital, right? What were your learnings to manage that capital, from that capital?
Like founder life में बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा होता नहीं है unless you do secondaries and we never did any secondaries. So for 15 years, I was on a very sort of lean salary. So जो भी आता था वो चला जाता था. So it was
how much of your salary you were drawing approximately, just for rough idea?
Starting when I started Toppr, like 12 lakhs. When I finished Toppr, it was like 60 lakhs. So after acquisition, suddenly when you get a lot of money, one, you realize how hard it is to deploy the money quickly in the right spots.
Okay.
It's not easy, right? So finding the right opportunities to park your money there, it's not easy. Two, it's not quick. So it takes time. So I think I took almost like a year and a half-ish to just
park it, finding places.
Finding the right spots for the right investments.
How did you find the right spot?
You have to figure out, right? Like depends on your strategies, depends on your stage of life कि आपको कितना equities में करना है, कितना debt में करना है. Equities का आपका tool क्या है? Do you want to do public markets? Do you want to do private? Do you want to do a private public mix? Do you want to do early stage only? Do you want to do venture funds? Debt में do you want to do fixed income instruments, little bit higher risk, little bit. So सारे figure out करके
आपने क्या choose करा था?
मेरा थोड़ा सा aggressive allocation है. So all my equity is in early stage private. So I don't have any late stage private. Like some late stage privates, mostly early stage private. I don't have any public. So मैंने थोड़े कुछ दिन के लिए थोड़ा public market में थोड़ा सा पैसा लगाया था. But then I keep tracking it and then something कुछ ऊपर जाता है कुछ नीचे आता है. Like मेरे को इतना track ही नहीं करना. Once I make an investment, I want to forget it for 10 years. So it's that way the private works better for me. Whether you put it in a venture VC fund as a LP or you write a direct check, whatever it is, you write that check and forget for 10 years. So that works better for my mental model. So all my equity side is in early stage privates. All my debt is in venture funds, venture debt funds. So venture debt funds like Trifecta, Altiria.
You're a partner in LP in?
Sort of a LP in these funds.
We've done with Rahul sir also.
Yeah. So मेरे यही दो assets हैं, asset classes हैं, and then the rest is in real estate.
And you're learning from Kishore Bihani sir, because you worked. So when Future Group acquired Chaupaati, you were the vice president there. And what was the things that you learned from the Future Group, and especially how much close you were to Kishore sir?
I interacted with him like maybe on a monthly basis or once in.
Do you have any incidents, learnings?
So the learning there was, see, when we were very young, when we got into Future Group, and we were all coming from a very tech background. This was our first exposure to the non-tech marketing, branding, distribution background. And here, when you look at Future Group from that lens, then you discover that यार ये प्रोडक्ट टेक सब कुछ नहीं होता है. ब्रांड होता है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होता है, मार्केटिंग होती है, सोर्सिंग होती है, कैटेगरीज होती हैं. सो वो सारा काम. सो वी लर्नड दैट ओवर देयर. And I understood how left brain thinking works, how right brain thinking works. What are the pitfalls of left brain thinking? It's very.
What's the difference between left brain thinking and right brain?
Very structured. Left brain thinking is your engineer. Right brain thinking is your artist. So I learned that over there. I saw it firsthand. Kishore Bihani was a completely right brain guy, but his counterpart was a left brain.
Who was he?
Kishore Bihani के cousin का नाम क्या है? राकेश बिहानी.
Okay. But tell me, were there any incidents जहाँ पर आपको बहुत enlightening incidents थे उनके साथ? Any stories that you can't forget?
So story in the sense, I mean, one incident was, it wasn't an incident, but one event was Flipkart at that time had some newspaper article appeared and it said Flipkart crosses 24 crore annual run rate. Which essentially means last month they did 2 crores. Right? So annualized run rate is 2 crores into 12. But from Future Group's perspective, it was like
small, pretty.
हम 10,000 करोड़ की सेल करते हैं, 24 करोड़ है, हमारी 1 घंटे की सेल है. एक दिन में एक पार्ट की सेल है. But 5-6 years later, Flipkart was doing 10,000 crores and Future Group was doing 5,000 crores. So missing that green shoot and understanding the risk of it and understanding the opportunity of it, or like not understanding the risk of it and not understanding the opportunity of it, was a big miss from the group's perspective.
ऐसा क्यों हुआ था?
DNA. See, the thing is, you're cut out. Flipkart is cut out to be a technology company, and Future Group is cut out to be a retail company. Same with Walmart. Walmart is cut out to be a retail company, and Amazon is cut out to be an engineering company. DNA wise. अब आप Walmart कितना बेचते तो सेम ही है दोनों चीजें. अब Walmart कितना भी कर ले, it can't become an Amazon, and Amazon कितने भी store खोल ले, it cannot become a Walmart. Because core fundamental DNA of companies are different.
Do you think can I rewire our DNA? A company can rewire its DNA?
Very hard. Extremely hard.
Why it's hard?
I haven't seen successful examples of companies rewiring their DNA. I don't know if it is possible or if it is advisable. Don't know. Also, the other thing I learned is जहाँ DNA mismatch है, वहाँ पर acquisitions futile होते हैं.
ऐसा कैसे?
मतलब आप retail company का DNA है, engineering company को acquire कर लिया, मजा नहीं आएगा. Eventually it won't. It's like oil and water won't blend.
Is there any product or a service that you really want, but no one is giving it to you? So if any of the watcher gives you a product or service and you're ready to pay for it, what that one thing would be?
ऐसे कोई छोटी-छोटी तो बहुत सारी हैं. There can be a better school for kids, more accessible schooling for kids.
What are certain things that give you happiness?
What are things that give me happiness? Control over time gives me happiness. Kid gives me happiness. Sometimes great food gives me happiness. But mostly control over time gives me happiness.
How do you get control over time? If somebody wants to get control over time, is it only through money?
I mean, there are super rich people who still don't have control over their time. But out of choice, like a super rich hai, you still want to work in a different way where like eventually you end up with no control over time.
When you say great food, tell me the best food that you ever had. Two or three places.
Food I have ever had. Japan, consistently great food.
वहाँ पर भी कहाँ पर या कौन सी dish? Give us some recommendations.
So there was this steakhouse we hit in, I think, the Arashiyama neighborhood by the river. Oh, I mean, we randomly walked in. It was like a 10-seater restaurant. Chota sa tha. Wasn't out of the world expensive. It wasn't like crazy expensive. Steak was so good, so good. So, but Japan, consistently great food. So many options that you get there are amazing. Italy, Rome, any restaurant that you walk in, or most restaurants you walk in, incredible food.
Bangalore mein?
Sir, Bangalore mein, Asha Tiffin, dosa. Bangalore dosa, multiple places, but my favorite is Asha Tiffins.
What do you fear in life, sir? What are your fears? Do you fear anything?
Fears.
When was the last time you were fearful of something?
Scared during Toppr days. Scared of running out of runway, basically.
What was your lowest point in life? And what was the best advice you received at that time?
I think lowest point was in Chaupaati days, where I think we were unable to hit PMF. We were unable to hit product market fit. And I was kind of new to entrepreneurship. So it was my second year being an entrepreneur.
What was the best advice you received at that time? Because I know so many founders जिनको आप mentor करते हो. So we recently did with Seekho. So Rohit sir was telling me an interesting story जब वो आपके पास आए थे. तो पहले आपने उनको PNL की बात थी, उनको कुछ समझ में नहीं आई. तो फिर आपने बोला थप्पड़ मारूंगा, पहले PNL सीखो आप. तो he was like कि वो बिल्कुल to the point बोलते हैं.
रोहित को बोल सकता हूँ मैं क्योंकि वो like I worked with him for very long.
Yes.
I was upset that he was not anyway.
So but he said कि वो बहुत अच्छे से गाइड करते हैं. And उन्होंने बहुत सारी आपको आपके बारे में बात बताई थी. But उस समय पे who were your mentors? Who were some people that you learned a lot in your life from?
Usually क्या होता है, seniors are your mentors. And different seniors mentor you in different areas. Jैसे for starting up, etc. Kashyap was my senior and he was also my mentor. At some point, maybe you don't look at them as mentors and start looking at them as friends, but they are your mentors, right? So for entrepreneurship, Kashyap, for life advice, Ashgo of Urban Ladder, so बहुत सारे लोग हैं. Like you keep talking to them. Your co-founder, in some sense, you don't think of him or her. Right? When I think of Hemant, I don't think of him as my mentor, but I think of him as a friend. But if you think about what I gained out of him in life, it's equal to what you would gain out of a mentor, right? Like so many times when you're in doubt, you go check with him, double check with him. When you want advice, you don't say I want advice, right? You're brainstorming. So in some sense, it is advice. And reverse is also true. It's not like वो मेरा mentor है, मैं उसका mentee हूँ. It's like मैं भी उसका mentor हूँ.
Makes sense. So it's two-way.
So
got it. How did you meet the most important person in your life?
Impact-wise, the most important person in my life has been Hemant, because I worked with him on 2 companies, and I've been working with him from 2008. We are in 2024. तो 16 साल से मैं उसके साथ काम कर रहा हूँ. And if you just think about the number of hours we spent together, because pretty much पिछले 16 साल में हर दिन 10 से 12 घंटे मैं उसके साथ काम किया हूँ in the same space. So overlapping hours wise, there is no other person I've spent more hours with. Right? I may not have spent so many hours with my mom also, because I spent most of my time with my mom till I was 17. So after 17, I went to college. College के बाद job. It's like was never at home.
Got it. And how did you end up meeting a wife?
IIT.
Was he your batchmate?
Oh, she was my junior at IIT.
And how did meeting your junior ended up translated into making it her your life partner?
I think she reached out for some advice on her resume during placement time.
Oh.
And then after the placements, I think we continue to stay in touch, and तो वहाँ से start होकर.
Got it. Tell me one thing that you're contrarian about. One thing that you can't tweet about, which you think very different from the rest of the world.
Micromanagement is not bad.
Okay. And आपने बताया था Mad Men is your favorite show. Sir, tell me 2 or 3 things that you learned from Mad Men.
It is so slow. I like the slowness of it. It's also great attention to detail.
Any learning, any insights? Anything which you have incorporated in your life after seeing Mad Men? You can tell about another show or a movie or a documentary also, which has impacted you.
Other shows that I like, of The Bear, The Model Family I like, Succession. That show, when it started, it seemed so jittery to me. It's like,
क्या हो रहा है? हाँ.
so jittery and so, like, क्या हो रहा है? Why can't they sit still, and why can't they just... And once you watch enough of it, then you realize what great writing. The writing is so incredible, because see, it's never a conversation कि आपने बोला फिर मैंने बोला फिर आपने बोला फिर. They're always talking over each other. All the characters are always talking over each other. So it's like the writing has to be totally chaotic to execute that kind of a show, right? And the cinematography also is just incredible in that show. I think they've done a new take, and it's like ऐसे just camera pan करता है, it's never still, it's never your classic shot. So I think Succession, The Bear, Mad Men,
The Modern Family.
Modern Family. These are my favorite shows. And then there's like a 2-season show on Netflix called The Marco Polo. I found that show brilliant, but they didn't do like a season 3 and 4. But I think that was a brilliant show. I loved it.
IIT Bombay के बच्चों ने जब आपसे पूछा था, who are some folks that you would like to go on dinner with? So आपने एक interesting नाम लिया था बाबर का. Why was that?
See, look at it from his perspective. The guy is some princeling, like princeling in the sense, maybe zamindar plus का बेटा होगा, got kicked out by his cousins, right? Or whatever, like he was like a local provincial ruler, छोटा सा province होगा, maybe like जो जैसे हमारे छोटा सा बहुत छोटा kingdom होगा, and ऐसे multiple such kingdoms होंगे, वो मिला के भी अपने state बराबर नहीं होगा. So essentially like a district or something. उसका prince था वो, he got kicked out by his cousins, and he said कि चल फुट यहाँ से. तो but his ambition is like still to get it back or do greater than what he had, and he sets out. And you know that beyond the Khyber mountains there is some land with like vast Indo-Gangetic plain, brilliant rivers, Indus and Ganges, and massive plains, and therefore a lot of agriculture and a lot of the spirit of adventure to venture beyond Khyber, come into this territory, try and attack, and to be able to fight a native standing army with an army that you brought from across the mountains. So obviously you're going to be outnumbered 10-1. But this spirit of adventure was humongous. And then he left behind his whatever lines that went on to like organize the kingdom all over the subcontinent was huge. So as a, like in startup terms, he was a founder who laid the foundation for a company in a very difficult terrain, and that company went on to become, and it lived beyond the founder for multiple generations.
Which is your favorite EdTech company, sir?
EdTech company, I think Toppr was like still.
Apart from Toppr?
Apart from Toppr in EdTech, physics wala, they inverted everything, right? So they said instead of product first, we'll do distribution first. Let me get the right distribution from the single teacher model. Let me just leverage technology, which is wide broadcast tech.
And at that point, and that cost?
Yeah, so use YouTube as a channel for broadcast technology and then do really low pricing instead of $700-800 rupees, $2,000 rupees, $3,000 so like $10, $20, $30 pricing. So they've inverted a lot of things on the head and still created a large company. Basically, हमारे मॉडल में 1 million subscribers sort of cap था, उनके मॉडल में शायद because it's 1/10 the price, it has to be 10 million subscribers.
Right. वो कैसे achieve होगा? मतलब how?
1/10 the price भी है, but in general क्या होता है ना कि वो 100 rupees को 10 rupees करने पर 10 buying customers 100 buying नहीं हो जाते हैं. वो same proportion में increase नहीं होते हैं. So we'll have to see. It's still like early for.
Any other startup that you are bullish on apart from education space?
Actually, Seekho, I would say Seekho. Yeah, so I take back that answer. So Seekho, I'm bullish, right? Like new distribution format. So like stagnant for a bit, but like after PMF, really exploding.
Last 3 सवाल है sir. Number 1, what is one thing that you learned from BYJU's?
Marketing.
Marketing, which is
ATL.
Okay, above the belt.
Above the line.
Above the line. Tell me, explain this.
Basically, brand building, marketing, how to, like, before BYJU's, I never saw marketing as necessary ingredient of the product. But after BYJU's, now it's become so obvious to me that now I look at a product and say, ये Nescafe का तो ये 50 crore का marketing budget है साल का. Oh, ये Liril है, Liril का 55 crore है. So basically brand building, the value of brand, वो सब.
Is there any interesting incident or a story with BYJU's which kind of increased the respect for you?
No, he's a smart guy. Like he's smart. He's very good at what he does. Very ambitious also. So yeah.
What is your one learning from BYJU's? In the sense, from the BYJU's incident, कि you should not be like this. ये mistake हो गई आपसे.
Org building.
Org building.
तब BYJU's की mistake बता रहा हूँ मैं कि BYJU's, they didn't build the right org. They had pretty much everything served, everything, right? Like they had a large market, lucky. They had a product that had high gross margin, lucky. They had a product that had high average contract value or average value.
Which is great. Huh?
Right? They had huge funding. Tremendous amount of funding. And all that, they had zero competition being funded, like competition के पास fund. And they had no international competition. तो ये 5-6 चीजें एक जो ये यूनिकॉर्न डेकाकॉन फाउंडर्स है ना,
हाँ,
उनको ये 5-6 चीजें एक साथ लाइनअप होकर मिलना
बड़ा मुश्किल है.
Impossible है. People can't, like Dipinder can't find large market. If he finds large market, he can't find high gross margin. If he finds high gross margin, he can't find high ticket. If he finds high ticket, there will be a Swiggy who will compete with you, or for Bhavish, if you find all of these, first of all, he doesn't find all of these, but there is an international competition. So
it's sweet spot.
So all these founders have 5 or 6 handicaps कि मैं low ticket पे, low gross margin पे, highly competitive environment में, competing with a international company पे, ऐसे करके 5-6 drawback पे एक positive लेकर मैंने बस एक अच्छा product बनाया. मैंने अच्छा product market को time किया. एक positive चीज को लेकर they are moving forward. So they have like 5 things pulling them back and they have one thing going for them.
Which is leading, huh?
They are creating a company with like one thing pushing them forward, but 5 things pulling them back. And yet they're creating these Decacorn companies.
Who were other folks from Toppr Mafia?
Company-wise, Bisu की company है, रोहित की कंपनी है, बी विनोद वगैरह, मतलब 6-7 लोग हैं वहाँ पर। मैजिक स्टूडियो यूएस बेस्ड सैस कंपनी है, और आ रहे हैं नए नए थोड़े।
How did you feel that when people were leaving? There is one thing that somebody has worked in your institution, and now he's leaving to build something. So he'll build something else. So we call it Toppr Mafia. But at the same time, you're losing your resource.
And I'm always happy if people leave for 2 reasons. One, to go to B school, or 2, to start their own company. I don't feel sad, because the company is also like a river. People will come, people will go. People come, people contribute, people build, people leave. People who leave are leaving for options that are helping them grow further. So I feel very happy. I don't feel sad at all. So anybody who's applying to a B school, I've proactively written recommendations if they ask me to write one. People who want to start companies, I've always encouraged them. People who've left Toppr on good terms also, like you can ask them, I've given fairly glowing testimonials of their work. So
लास्ट सवाल है शो के लिए। मैंने बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स से मैं मिला जिनने अपने बच्चों के लिए एक टॉपर, एक बायजूस या कोई भी एक प्रोडक्ट एजुकेशन का उन्होंने लेके उनको दे रखा है, लेकिन बच्चे पढ़ते ही नहीं है। द पीपल, वो जो एंगेजमेंट एंड सो कोर्सेरा और इतने सारे जो कंपनीज हैं, इनकी भी एंगेजमेंट आर सो लो दैट यू बाय द प्रोडक्ट बट यू डोंट कंप्लीट इट। हाउ डू यू सॉल्व फॉर दैट?
basically you have to solve through learning loops. So you have to create loops or engagement loops. You have to create loops where you do something, and before you want to exit that, you have to start something new so that you stay there. Right? So you have to create those engagement loops. And
टॉपर का सबसे बड़ा एंगेजमेंट लूप, सबसे बड़ा हुक क्या था which increased the course completion rate, the watching rates, the engagement maximum?
see, you have to look at what does a child do while learning. If you say कि oh, the child has doubts, let me create a doubts app. Oh, एक चीज है। और वीडियो देखता है, let me create videos, वो भी एक ही चीज है। और लाइव क्लासेस, वो भी एक ही चीज है। If I do apps for any of these, it's useless, because learning is not
One thing.
Learning is trying to watch a live class, interact, and then going ahead and practicing, and getting stuck in practice and asking a doubt, and getting that doubt cleared and coming back to practice. But while practicing, going back to revise something, and not having to go through the entire video and getting a synopsis of that video, and then coming back to take a test, and then a report analyzing where I'm weak at and going back and studying that. So it's like a zigzag, it's a very interconnected path. वो path आप student को एक simple, beautiful way में कैसे दे सकते हो? That's your challenge. And not like, okay, here's a doubts app, here's a live class app, here's a video app.
Thank you so much, sir. Really grateful.